Jane's story shows us how bad mental health care was back in the day and doesn't shy away from her medical abuse. Hey, you know who else on the team went through medical abuse?
Larry and Jane don't have lots of stories together, and they don't particularly interact much, but they're kind of foils to each other. While Jane doesn't want to fit into the system, Larry does. Larry wants to fit in so bad that he goes through all the motions of the heterosexual man who has it all despite actually being gay. Being gay during this time period, Larry has internalized all kinds of ideas of what his sexuality says about him, with Mr. Nobody saying that he'd felt like a monster long before Keeg came along.
Sorry, side note, I'm going to refer to the negative spirit as Keeg because that's his name.
In episode 3, Larry and John have this conversation.
Become a poster child for a country who hates you.
Nobody hates me.
First, nice Mr. Nobody reference. Second, Larry's in denial about his gay identity causing problems, but he's also very, very paranoid about it causing problems and getting out.
Hey everybody, Emily from the future here. So I just want to clarify this bit. Larry's saying nobody hates me, and John's going, well, yeah, they don't know you. And Larry's kind of almost distancing himself from his identity at this point, just because he can't handle the truth of it in the context that he's in. So he doesn't think it's a problem because he's masking. And then he's afraid of it getting out because then he won't be able to mask anymore. He won't be able to pretend to be this guy he's trying to be. Hope this clears things up. Larry wants so bad to just be gay, but not have to live a countercultural lifestyle outside of the norm. His desire to stay in the closet and pretend to be straight frustrates John, who wants to live his truth and have a life with Larry. But Larry can't bear to lose the image he's been working so hard to maintain, and that he's good at maintaining. And when you consider how life-threatening homophobia was at this time, you can't really blame him.
You want to fill in the margins of this nightmare? Add the flight crew locker room, the gay jokes echoing off the walls. Add the 2 boys found dead and hogtied outside Pendleton. You want to know why I couldn't be with John? You want to know what's missing from this fantasy? Fucking context!
The homophobia Larry faced over so much of his life seems to have filled him with anxiety. In his flashback, he overhears his parents talking about how he's queer and how it's going to ruin their lives.
I swear, if that woman accuses my son of being a queer, I'm...
Please, you know it's true. The signs are everywhere. And now your son is going to cost us our standing at school, at church. Lord Gerald, we could lose everything.
And they're talking about losing everything in 1935 during the Great Depression when people were losing everything. And if, God forbid, things happened to get worse for his family, Larry would probably blame himself. From a young age, there was a lot riding on Larry to hide who he was and be normal. And that's so much pressure for a person, especially one so young, to go through.
I feel like it's really, really, really important to mention that being gay is not a disability, nor is it a mental health condition. However, back in the day, especially back in Larry's day, the DSM did think it was.
In the DSM-1, they classified homosexuality as a sociopathic personality disturbance. And in 1968, they reclassified it as an abnormal sexual deviation.
Today, thankfully, it's not in there. Today, any psychiatrist worth anything will tell you that it's not anything that should be in the DSM.
So what do you do when you're put in this situation? You run. Larry joined the Air Force and became an astronaut, I guess? He flew rockets into space to get as far away as possible from a world where he seemed to have it all but couldn't even live his own life, running away from not only the expectations put on him, but also from the thing that he thought made him a monster due to all the years living in a very homophobic society. And now he's literally incapable of running away from Keeg. Or the team, for that matter. Larry thinks control is what he needs to be able to fit into mainstream society. He probably considers his affair with John Bowers to be a lack of control. If only he could keep up that mask he was wearing full time. This puts him at odds with Jane's anti-control and countercultural control as fascist mindset. But now he has no control over how others perceive him, and he has no control over Keeg. He might have been able to hide that thing that made him weird, albeit at a big personal cost, but now he can't hide how different he really is. Given all his anxiety about being and appearing normal, and given that now he can't even pretend to be, Larry's been a ball of anxiety for decades now. In Therapy Patrol, Larry tells the spirit that they're gonna take the day off and sleep in, and it seems like he's just too tired from all the anxiety that he has to go back to sleep. Keeg tries to give him some good memories, but Larry can't really have a good memory because the context is too painful. He can't have a good memory about John because it just rubs in how he couldn't actually have a life with him. He can't have a good memory with his family because they only existed to hide who he was. His memories of everything are mired by the fact that he was a gaslighting, insecure hypocrite, even though he kind of had to be those things. He's concerned about ruining other people's lives, but takes a while to realize that being gay in this time was traumatizing. Of course, he wasn't going to be able to make the best decisions in a world that vilified him for his sexuality, causing him to be on edge constantly. While Larry did make some mistakes he didn't have to make, he never would have made those mistakes had the alternative not been potentially dangerous. Along with his uncontrollable anxiety, Larry also now has a body he can't control. It's a big theme that Larry and Keeg don't communicate. Similar to lots of disabilities, making it feel like your body is out of your control and isn't listening to you and isn't giving you information correctly.
Why do you hurt? Nobody's attacking you. It's fine. We're fine. Stop it. Or there's like executive dysfunction where you're like, okay, we're going to get up, we're going to get out of this chair, and we're going to go do a productive thing. We're going to get up. The first step is getting up. Come on. It's getting up out of the chair. Get out of the chair.
It's funny because, again, another similarity to Jane. For yet another similarity to Jane, as I said earlier, both underwent medical abuse. Larry's medical abuse involved mocking him for being gay, with the agent accusing him of struggling with normalcy his entire life. They also tried to convince him that Keeg, the monster inside of him, is him. And if he doesn't want to be a total monster, they'll help him invade Cuba. In 1968. Hey, didn't U.S. intervention in Cuba put us on the very brink of nuclear war almost a few years before this? And you want to set Keeg on Cuba? You think the USSR is just going to be all chill with that, you dipshits?
I think the fact that Jane and Larry come from different times and different generations has something to do with the fact that they have different worldviews.
Larry, a member of the greatest generation, wants to be the straight, white, abled cis man with 2.5 kids in a nice house in the suburbs. That's the ideal, especially in the post-World War II world where we brought back the idea of the American dream after F. Scott Fitzgerald shot it to death in a swimming pool. Larry grew up in the Great Depression and World War II, and after those events, everybody started wanting to believe in the American dream again, probably largely as a fuck you to the USSR, but also as a way of having what they and their parents never had, and giving their kids what they never had. Normalcy is good. Normalcy will make you happy. Contrast with Jane, who's a countercultural baby boomer who's disillusioned with all of these ideas of normalcy, likely in part because of her own personal experiences, but possibly also as a result of all the atrocities committed in places like Vietnam, and even here in the US, to uphold the American status quo. And hell, we've all seen JFK get his head blown off. How do you get more American ideal than the president? Normalcy won't save you, and the status quo only exists to oppress. That being said, the fact that Larry was gay during the mid-20th century is so vital to his character, his neuroses, and his anxiety regarding the negative spirit. Part of what I loved about Danny Patrol is that it gave Larry the opportunity to interact with the modern LGBT+ community. And the best part of the episode is that Larry, who's so scared of being a hero, steps up and punches the agent, vowing to protect Danny. One of his most badass moments, and Keeg doesn't even take over.
Basically, Danny gave Larry a cute little Queer Eye moment. Which actually, oh my god, could you imagine Larry on Queer Eye? Like, can you imagine him interacting with... Oh my god, can you imagine in Doom Patrol he hasn't really like been cooking, but can you imagine the Titans version of him where he's cooking a lot and Anthony just comes in like, here, it's guacamole, but it's just an avocado and like one seasoning, and Larry's just like whipping up something sick. I mean, like, Larry could be in Queer Eye. He's struggling a little bit. He's struggling to function.
Strugs to funk. That's struggling to function. Strugs to funk.
Hey, you know who else is strugs to funk? Like Larry, Reed is also a member of the greatest generation. Which, like, can you imagine calling your own generation that? Or, like, what did their kids name them? Like, can you imagine worshiping your parents so much that you're like, my parents' generation was the greatest. Above any criticism, nobody will ever come close.